Welcome to the pre-calculus notes for special right triangles. This is chapter 4.3. Go ahead and write your name and what period you're in. So today we're going to be looking at two different special right triangles. The first one is a 45, 45, 90. Okay, so the ratios of the sides of a 45, 45, 90 are in the 1 to 1 to rad 2. And if you're wondering where that came from, if you plug the two legs into the Pythagorean Theorem, you get 1 squared plus 1 squared, which is 2. And then you take the square root of that, you get rad 2. So it's 1 to 1 to rad 2. So if you know either of the legs, you can simply multiply that value by rad 2, and that'll give you the length of the hypotenuse. Or if you know the length of the hypotenuse, you can divide that by rad 2, and that'll give you the length of the two legs, which are both the same. Okay? All right. So the ratio, again, is 1 to 1 to rad 2, or you can call it x to x to x to rad 2. All right. So if you're given a leg of 10, you're going to know that both legs are 10, and the hypotenuse is going to be 10 rad 2. If you're given the leg is 5, both legs are going to be 5. You multiply that times rad 2, and your hypotenuse is 5 rad 2. Okay? But let's say you're given a leg, you're given a hypotenuse of 7, and we'll call the leg x. You're going to take the 7, you're going to divide it by rad 2, and then you have to rationalize that denominator. So you multiply by the radical that's in the denominator, which is rad 2 in this case. Rad 2 times rad 2 is the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. But when you multiply the numerator times the square root of 2, you get 7 square root of 2, and the denominator simplifies to 2. Okay? So that's a little trickier going that direction. All right, so the second triangle we're going to talk about is the 30, 60, 90. Okay, so the ratio on the 30, 60, 90 is 1 to rad 3 to 2, where the hypotenuse is the 2, the short leg is 1, and the long leg is rad 3. Okay, so if you're wondering where that comes from, again, you can use the Pythagorean Theorem, and you can get the rad 3. Okay, so let's look at if you're given a short leg of 3, you can simply double that to get your hypotenuse. So 3 times 2 is 6. Hypotenuse is easy. And then to get the long leg, you can take that 3 and multiply it by rad 3, and you get 3 rad 3. Okay, so anytime you're given the short leg, it's pretty easy. If short leg is 5, double it, you get 2. If the short leg is 5, to get the long leg, you multiply it by rad 3. Okay? But if you're given that the short leg is y, you can double it to get 2y, and you can multiply it rad 3 to get the long leg. All right. So here's some more 30, 60, 90s. If you're given the short leg is 4, to get the long leg, multiply that by rad 3. To get the hypotenuse, double it to get 8. If you're given the short leg is 12 rad 2. To get the long leg, you're going to multiply that times rad 3. So square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. And you don't multiply the 12 by, well, you multiply it by 1, but you don't multiply it by anything. If the short leg is 12 rad 2, to get the hypotenuse, you want to double that. So 2 times 12 rad 2 is just 24 rad 2. All right. If you're given the short leg is 3 rad 3, to get the long leg, you're going to multiply that by the square root of 3. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. If the short leg is 3 square roots of 3, to get the hypotenuse, you want to double it. So 2 times 3 rad 3 is just 6 rad 3. Right? If you're given the long leg is 10, you want to divide that by the square root of 3. So you're going to have 10 over the square root of 3. And it'd be nice if you could just leave it like that, but you can't because you can't have a square root in the denominator. So you have to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 in the denominator is the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So I always do the denominator first because it's easier. And then in the numerator, it's just 10 times the square root of 3, which you can't simplify anymore. So it's 10 square roots of 3 over 3. All right, for the hypotenuse, you want to double it. So 2 times 10 square roots of 3 is 20 square roots of 3, and then 3 times 1 is just 3.